Hello, Swimming in Stars Astrology. We are here live with the illustrious Sophia Jade. Welcome, Sophia.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank,
Always a pleasure.
thank you for having me right in your home here in this quarantine.
Oh,
I think we wanted to talk about some asteroid action, which Sophia is excited to share with you. We're going to use our charts as examples, and I just wanted to put this out to the Swimming in Stars community and also just to people in the universe. If you would like your chart to be the topic of discussion, please come join us. We can post your chart, and it's kind of like having a free mini reading. So feel free to private message either of us, and we can make that happen for you. And in addition, we wanted to look at Chiron, so the wounded healer, healing of all types. And so, Sophia, I'll let you sort of lead the conversation.
alrighty. Um, I've been doing some work with some asteroid points as well as some points of things like the Vertex, which are not physical bodies. So they're not, asteroids in the sky, but rather intersection points of where the ecliptic of the Earth intersects with the other points in the universe. So it's kind of similar to the nodes, the nodal points of the moon. And these are aspects that add a layer of subtlety and definition to our charts that allows for more nuance than you might otherwise get. So I'm still exploring all of this, but I'd like to kind of share and discuss things that I've found so far as a way of beginning this conversation. So actually, Emery, why don't you go ahead and pull up your chart right now um, so we can start getting into things. Screen
Okay, how does that
sharing.
look from your screen?
Looks great to me.
Cool.
Cool.
All right, let's do this.
Um, all right. So one thing I want to point out, when we take the planets that we normally see on a chart, things like Mars and Mercury and Uranus and Neptune, they're very, there's a there's an unbalance in the sense that there are more male planets than female planets. And I don't mean that in a gender sense, okay, but we all have masculine and feminine. And so there's astrology has typically been dominated by these masculine forces. But when we include the asteroids on these other points, we get more of a balance of the feminine energy. And I feel like that might be one reason that this is coming up so strongly for me right now, and on the as a reflection of the world scale, that the feminine is rising, and we're paying more attention to that kind of energy. So to dive right in, I want to start with the vertex, because this is a gateway point, and so this is one of those ecliptic intersection points. And what I have found in my own personal experience is that when you meet people in your life who are the super transformative types of people, either relationship wise or work wise, but those people who impact your life on a soul level, where you were never the same again after you met them, or something really intense happened with that person, there's tends to be vertex connections somehow in your chart. And so these are sort of it's a part of you that is maybe acting as a secondary ascendant, in the sense that this is an active part of yourself, but it almost takes something else to trigger that to come out. And so it's something that you have to explore in the context of meeting with others in some way. But it's a gateway, so it's where people come in, and and how people depart from your life.
Would you say
So
it's just people, or could it also be situations or life-changing events,
oh, I
or
think absolutely it can be life-changing events, because the vertex itself is kind of an event. It's this intersection point. So
well, and I know I
um,
have a life-changing person in my life who 20 degrees of Libra is
yes,
very close to
exactly.
their ascendant. And then I also, during my battle with breast cancer, was having a sixth house transit with a
Hmm.
Pluto square and then Pluto square my vertex. So those are two
Yep,
major life points that I know for sure that would corroborate what you're saying.
absolutely. Um, yes, so that's been my experience. And when we're looking at the vertex, um, we can kind of ascertain those areas where we would be looking for that kind of faded experience or transformation. And I think Emery's vertex is sort of widely conjunct Pluto, and so definitely, and in the sixth house. So that tie in with the breast cancer, as you were saying, the sort of transformative health experience that affected you on a daily life level, uprooted your entire health and had to rework that entire part of your life. Certainly a degree of fate in that. And as well, your tie with Roxanne is very much a twin flame thing, which we'll get into with Juno as well when I go into that. Your Juno's at 11 degrees, which I just want to point out, 11s and 22s, twin flame numbers. So we'll get to that as well. But that's the first point that I want to establish is the vertex. So when you're looking at your chart and you're wondering, why is it that I'm being attracted to these types of people, or what was it about this event that was so transformative? Check your vertex and see what you're calling in. And you can also
Check
look at
your vertex.
the sign that, yes, and the sign that is opposite of your vertex is also going to be transformative forces. So for Emery, people with strong Aries energy are going to be the people who can motivate them to kind of pursue their mission, and they're going to cause that opposition tension that forces you into action and makes you want to move. And similarly, people with strong Libra placements are people that you're going to want to seek out when you are going through those intense times of change, when you are going through those transformations. The people who have strong placements in the sign of your vertex will be helpful to you during those times. So
Awesome.
that's an overview of that.
That's that. How quickly or slowly does the vertex move in relationship to, like, say, the personal planets or the outer planets? Is it slow moving, like some of the outer asteroids like Eris, or is it quicker moving?
It's not as slow as Eris. I don't know the actual speed, but it's no, it's much faster than Eris. It moves around quite a bit. Let me see where it is right now. Hang on.
And then for those watching, we've got just drawing little arrows to what we're pointing at in the chart to hopefully help isolate that. Sometimes when you look at the chart and it's filled with, I had a reading actually from a Gemini once that was an amazing reading, but the chart had so many points on it. It was basically just covered in points. It was stars and asteroids and all kinds of stuff. And I kind of just looked at that chart and I was like, I just had to put it away. I was like, I don't even, like, I'm an astrologer and I had to put it away. So if anyone's having
Yeah,
trouble, we're just going to
yeah,
draw little arrows to help you out with that. Okay,
definitely.
where is it now?
So it looks like the vertex moves. So right now it's in Taurus, and it looks like it tracks the sun. It's a little bit faster than the sun.
Okay.
Is how it's traveling.
Do, do,
So we're
do.
looking at about, bit shorter than a month transits for the vertex.
Okay.
So that's the first point that I want to lay out. And now I'd like to get into the nuances of some of the other asteroids and points. So if you think about Juno,
Okay.
and thinking about Juno in relationship to Venus, this is a good example of what I mean when I'm saying that the asteroids can add specificity and nuance to a chart. So when we look at Venus, we often talk about Venus as things that, like, our creativity, what we like to create in the world, and also how we function in relationships, and our heart at this personal level. Juno specifically is dealing with issues of commitment. It's the asteroid of marriage, and that can mean literal marriage, or it can mean, these things that we are relationships specifically that we're committed to. And so Emery has a Venus in Aquarius, and often when we think about Venus in
Sorry,
Aquarius,
everyone.
and
Just
no,
gonna apologize
well,
for my Venus right away.
that's the
Not for
thing,
my
right?
art out
That's
in the world, but for personal relationships. Anyone else with a Venus in Aquarius, feel free to pipe in on the comments. That has not been an easy journey.
but that's the connotation, right? Though, that a Venus and Aquarius in a relationship is going to be distant, or they're not going to be able to, meet you where you are because they're flying off on a spaceship somewhere, and they have to deal with all of humanities. They don't necessarily, have time for the personal stuff right now. But if you look at Emery's Juno, it's in frickin' Scorpio at 11 degrees in the sixth house, which is, I want commitment. I want it every day. I want it to be transformative and intense and amazing every single day. That's like, sorry, you're in or you're out. And, like, that's what I'm asking of you. It's intense as hell. And so that is
Well, it's
a
conjunct
very,
Uranus, so it's not like the traditional kind of, like, being
Right.
tied down. It's like the kind of deep transformation that helps you to break free, the
Completely.
kind of deep bond where you are completely free and rebellious and able to do the things that maybe you're not able to do by yourself.
Yeah. Within relationship, but that intensity has to be there, you know? And so that's something that might not present as much if we were only looking at Emery's Venus in the context of relationships and so on. So there is um, this deeper commitment and intensity that is showing with Juno there. And the fact, again, I will say that Juno's at 11 degrees for you, and you're in this fated relationship with rocks, and this twin flame journey in 11 is very symbolic of that.
Well, and
Um,
I'll just also be the devil's advocate and say I've got a lot of T squares in my chart, and this goes
yeah,
ahead and makes yet another T square. Juno,
yeah,
Venus, and the moon, or Juno,
there you go.
Venus, and Saturn a little bit more widely. And there's definitely past karma and past life issues that I have to continually work through.
Mm-hmm.
When we see squares in our chart, it's like there's something I have to grow past or see around. I always think of it as like there's a corner and you're looking straight ahead and you're like, I don't get it. But if you just turn the corner, then that's how you get around it. And the only way to do that is to have a completely different perspective, take a 90-degree angle, so to speak. And I feel like when I don't continually do that in my life, it's marked with strife and difficulty and languish. And so there's just so many aspects like that in my chart that that's just part of who I am.
Yeah,
Point.
absolutely. Um, and this is the fun one for you. I know it's not the fun one for you. I'm sorry. Vesta is one of the most important points to me that's been coming up lately. Vesta is a priestess, and it's the kind of it's commitment, but not like Juno in this case, where Juno deals with relationships specifically. Vesta is what we're committed to in our lives in a priestly way. So the kind of thing like, what would you go to a temple for? What would you dedicate your life to? When we think about mythology, Vesta is the Roman version of Hestia, who's the goddess of the hearth. So the one that kept the flame burning on Mount Olympus so that all the other gods could do what they needed to do, right? But protecting the flame of life. And so
Right.
when Vesta shows up in our charts, it's what flame do we tend to, and what is the flame of our life that we would give our lives for, that we would dedicate our lives to. So it's this very intense priestess-like commitment. So
And
for Emery
mine
with Vesta,
and mine's
sorry,
forming another yet another T square for your pleasure so that you can learn all
you're
about
just
them.
finding all the T squares.
Yeah, Chiron and the Vertex and my Vesta apparently also form a T square. So yay, we found two more T squares in my chart.
Hooray! Um, okay, there are a couple things that I find interesting about this placement for Emery. Um, I'm just going to say this again, even if we release this video or not. We can choose to release this video or not. If you're watching it, we chose to release it, but we might not. So
Yeah.
um, here's the thing with Vesta in the third house and its retrograde. I feel like this is where some of the communication blocks have come in, because I know for a fact that there are times when people perceive you in a way that is completely different than your intention. And I feel like part of that is coming from this, where communication should be an asset. You have this, you know, priestess like figure in your third house of communication, but it's retrograde and it's in Cancer. So it's like it's a little bit moody and it's a little bit karmic. Like there's like some, you know, lessons around communication. And I feel like it's coming from such a deeper place than people recognize. Um, this might also be because actually, if you were to put our charts together, your Vesta is opposite my ascendant. So it's kind of like I'm like seeing through to the intention that you have. But I've observed this like in our, you know, daily life, whether it's at open mic nights or whatever,
Yeah.
people will perceive you a lot differently than what you're intending, and a lot different than what you're actually putting off.
And well,
And
and
I
let
feel
me
like
just let me interject just for a second. For those of you that don't know, I'm an adult on the autism spectrum. I just found out about a
mhm.
year ago. Asperger's, high functioning, there's all these terms that we used to use that we don't, but I like to mention them because sometimes it helps people understand or they know of someone else with that. And I've always looked at my chart, and my Mercury in Capricorn is like powerful communicator, expansive. The
Hmm.
ninth house means I'm, like there's this mission like that can globally communicate. And I'm always like, I feel like that when I'm playing an instrument, or, like I feel like that in certain ways with my art or my poetry. But what Sophia's saying is accurate. I'm misunderstood a lot. And so I think one of my little research projects is looking for different aspects of that in people's charts. And sometimes it's a lot of signs and, a lot of planets in one sign, or, a stellium or two stelliums, or sometimes it's a lot of cardinal planets, or sometimes it's, like I said, a lot of T squares, or a lot of, coagulation of energy in one spot where it doesn't get distributed quite enough. But I've never
Yep.
really considered. I mean, I've known that I've had a third house in Cancer, but I didn't. It's blank if you don't look at Vesta, and so I haven't really thought about that.
Yeah. Well, and the other, um,
I do feel like a
the other,
crab when I try to communicate and
yeah,
people like
exactly.
get it. I want to pinch them or run away, and
Hmm. Yep.
I'm
It's
just
very
like
crabby.
it's really frustrating. Yeah,
Yeah. And the other thing about Vesta being in Cancer though is this deep devotion. I mean, that really intense devotion to family and to protection of the family. And for those who don't know, Emery is a very fiercely dedicated mom. And I think that makes perfect sense with Vesta and Cancer here, especially in the third house, um, because it's like protection of like the young kids,
right.
and being able to like, and especially in that phase of like primary education and so on, is being there for that and
Well, I'm
being
gonna just
devoted.
look up my daughter's chart really quick, but because I'm kind of
Yeah.
wondering if that Vesta is, opposite of any of her Capricorn placements.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna let you keep talking, but I'm gonna look for that chart and show you both of them for
Okay.
comparison.
Yeah. Um, but again, I feel like this is why these things are important. I feel like we've been missing, and I'm talking about some of these points I've been trying to engage with for a while, especially the Vertex and so on. But I really feel like right now is an incredibly potent time to be trying to look into these energies, especially these feminine energies, because they're revealing parts of ourselves and parts of our charts that need attention
Right.
and maybe have gone unnoticed in the past. And I'm a little bit overwhelmed, to be honest, at the moment with all of the stuff that's coming up around them. But I think there's a lot of valuable information with these
I'm glad that
points.
you're sharing it with us because it's not, points. I get overwhelmed with the Pluto and Uranus and nodes are the things that I look at the most. If any of
Yeah,
you haven't heard of Mark Jones' Pluto School, it's very Jungian and psychoanalytical, but also like finding your highest good and how you relate, and clearing past karma and debt, and like aligning your past life with your present life and future life. And I find it very helpful and very outside of the box comparatively to even other, evolutionary astrologers or other metaphysical astrologers.
yeah.
Okay, so here's my chart with Ava on the outside, and I can switch them if
Hmm.
you like. Just let me know.
Yep. Trying to find. Da, da, da.
So we've got,
So her. Okay. She and I both have Vesta and Saji, which we'll talk about later. But
so it looks like my Vesta is directly
opposite her
opposite her
Mars.
her Mars and very close to her Sun opposition.
Yeah.
And then hers is over here in Saggy,
Sag.
conjunct
Conjunct your
my,
Sun.
yeah, almost exactly conjunct my sun.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, you two are so devoted to each other. Cute.
Well, it's very karmic though. It
Um.
feels very
Hmm.
like duty. Like
Yep.
what was the word you said? Ceremonial, or what did you say?
Saying devotion.
Devotion.
Yeah.
It feels very much like, not like I owe it to her, but like, because you feel like
Sacred.
that.
It's sacred.
Like anything you do for your kids, you don't feel like they owe you or you owe them and they need to pay you back. But it's this feeling of duty and honor and obligation that doesn't feel obligatory, if that makes
Yeah.
any sense. But it's
Yeah.
like this deep purpose where there's something that I need to do for her that she needs me to do. Um, and it feels very, it's like not my nature to be a fighter or to go to court or to have all these agencies and like all this stuff. But it's like the events keep transpiring where I have to rise up and protect her, and it's sort of like, I don't know, like a duty.
Hmm. Completely. I think that makes a lot of sense. Um, and that's the thing. I feel like these points pull up other aspects of synastry that might otherwise go unnoticed too. Reasons why you might be pulled to somebody or have a relationship with somebody um, that otherwise wouldn't be revealed. Um, could we go back to your chart one more time? Just like two more things I want to say, and then I want to switch into mine, and then we can, yeah,
Okay, here it is.
cool. Um, okay, so two other points I wanted to talk about. Pallas, so that's the little diamond friend
Diamond
down in
friend.
your fourth house.
Oh, great. Another Leo. Just kidding, Leos. You know I love you. Okay.
It's great. Um, so Pallas is something that can show us more specificity with creativity, but this is like mental creativity. And again, for those who love mythology, like me, um, Pallas relates to Athena, and Athena was born out of Zeus's head. So that's the kind of, uh, and she went on to be the goddess of wisdom and war strategy. But this has to do with like our mental creativity, and so kind of what situations can we conjure up, and where's our creativity focused. I think it makes a lot of sense that Emery has their Pallas in Leo, because Leo is the sign of creativity, and so Pallas there is just like, what new possibilities can I make out of this, and like a continual engagement with creativity. And in the home, I think that makes a lot of sense too. It's like you want your home environment to be somewhere where you can feel inspired to be creative,
Absolutely. I can't.
where you can include your family, let your family
Mhm.
encourage you to be creative and be creative with them. Um, yeah,
When with Saturn close by, it's like it establishes a structure for me to just like to be who I am without censoring myself and to express because
yeah,
there's all different ways of expression. But when you have kids, there's certain ways that we express with kids and certain way we express and with adults and certain way we express on stage. And having a creative home environment or an environment filled with music or astrology or ritual ceremony, it allows me to sort of to integrate those parts of myself and to be able to be that's the best place for me to be who I am. Like when I'm doing music with the kids or like in the home or having a, a place that's, I don't know, sacred for that kind of
yeah,
expression. That's like key for me. Otherwise, I get super sad.
yeah, definitely. Um, I lied. I said two more things. There are two more things I want to say. Um, so Ceres, which is next door in the fifth house.
Hmm.
Um, this is sort of a counterpart to the moon, but specifically with the nurturing aspect of the moon. So whereas the moon, can represent our subconscious, our unconscious, our emotions, our emotional desires, and our nurturing and what we need to be nurtured and to nurture others, Ceres very much focuses on the nurturing part. Again, Ceres is the goddess of harvest. And so the things that we tend to, what do we plant? What do we harvest? And paying attention, how do you nurture those crops to fullness? And as such, it can also tell us a lot about the nurturing relationship, especially with the mother, but the nurturing relationships that we have in our lives that take on that kind of role. So even if it's not your birth mother, it can just be like someone who played that mothering role in your life.
Right.
And with Libra, I feel like that brings up some issues around imbalances of relationships or seeking to find the balance of relationships, especially within that kind of mothering relationship.
Right.
So having to maybe go to both ends of the spectrum in order to find what is the middle and what is right, and what is actually a true nurturing relationship in that context.
Well, and having both the moon and Ceres in masculine, quote unquote,
Yeah.
placements, I think is significant in wanting to have a strong maternal figure or strong women in my life that,
Mm-hmm.
can lead that way and help empower me to not shrink away from these big challenges. And then I meant to say this earlier, but just disclaimer for everyone listening, especially anyone that uses different pronouns or anyone that is like disillusioned with the binary, right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
When we say masculine and feminine, that is, sometimes it's helpful for what we're talking about just because of the history of the divine feminine or the history of the patriarchy and associating, like we associate Saturn and Capricorn with not just like
Patriarchy.
yeah, but with there's certain things that are associated over time and over history because of events, not just like
Hmm.
Saturn's a dude and Venus is a lady. It's not like that. And so I just want to be really clear.
Yeah.
And I like to use other words. And so I always encourage people to use their own vocabulary for astrology. But I like to use words like inner and outer and active and passive or outward and inward or
Hmm.
reflective and expressive. And in general, the fire signs and the air signs are more outwardly expressive. They are more, you see it, like that's why we say male and female. You can see the guy's parts, you can't see the lady's parts. It's the same with a microphone. But really, we're
Yeah.
talking more about the way we process and the way we feel okay in the world. Like water sign and earth sign is like, I'm processing in here, and when that feels good, I will let you know or not. Peace out. And fire and air are just like, it's out there. You know what I mean? Like, take it or leave it. I'll be over here, like, letting it out. Let me know if you want to be a part of that kind of thing. And so I think if that gives a little trigger or anything like that, please leave us comments. But feel free to come up with your own sort of expressions. But I love the idea of there's like a now divine feminine and divine masculine, and we're trying to look at things in a more heightened way where we metaphysically have a hierarchy of like, what's the highest expression? Like, if masculine wasn't a negative thing, or if feminine wasn't a negative thing. And then you've got all the people in the world like myself who it's like, but it's not two things. There's a blend,
Hmm.
there's fluidity, and there's a spectrum. And so, just like there's an autism spectrum, there's a spectrum of LGBTQIIAA plus 100 letters, and there's a spectrum of masculine and feminine, and there's a spectrum of being inward and outward. And there's like a jillion tests, but I think the more that we can be fluid with how we express stuff, the better for everybody to find their own words and placement in astrology. And then
Absolutely.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, it's a good soapbox.
Okay, we're back with Swimming in Stars Astrology, and Sophia is insisting again to look at my chart. So, all of you that were wondering about EP's Lilith, here is the goods.
Okay.
Feel free to message me about my Lilith. Peace.
All right. I just wanted to mention Lilith, as we had talked about your Vesta and Cancer and how that might be contributing to communication,
Right?
um, differences in what you intend versus what is perceived. And I just wanted to point out also that you have Black Moon Lilith in Gemini, which is sign of communication.
Yay.
Um, Yep. And Black Moon Lilith, here's the thing. Black Moon Lilith is where we have to be strong because it's where we're a witch on trial. It's where you are
Ooh,
being
I like that.
accused of, it's where you're being accused of all of this shit, and you're the one who has to stand strong and be like, I'm in my truth. I know what I'm about. Like, solidly, I know what I'm about. And you have to stand up for yourself and you have to fight. And so in this case, with Lilith and Gemini in the first house, a huge part of Emery's journey is owning what they have to say, and owning that really powerfully and really strongly, and with all the magic of the universe to be like, yep, this is what I am. And everyone's
Owning
going to be
who
like,
I
ah,
am and
witch.
all the
Mhm.
information that goes along with that wouldn't be censored otherwise.
Yes. And to tie that in super quickly, and then we'll transfer to my chart, but to tie that in super quickly with the part of fortune, which is across the way in Capricorn at 1 degree for Emery's chart. Um, the part of fortune shows us where we have opportunities for spiritual integration,
Hmm.
and how we can kind of become more whole.
Okay.
And it's sort of like a secondary Jupiter in that sense, where it's like this is where a blessing is if you can like own those parts of yourself, or if you can like get those lessons, then you kind of get that blessing.
Hmm.
And so tying in what I think aligns really well with the Lilith and Gemini lesson is this part of fortune in Capricorn, which again speaks to the personal integrity of, can I own my value to the deepest parts where it can last for, centuries upon centuries. And it's in the eighth house too. So like all the darkness, all of my light, all of those resources, all of those riches, can I build my structure on that? And can I own that? And can I own that that's what I am? And then you kind of get those eighth house blessings
Well, and
once
owning
that
your personal
happens.
power, because when you meet a
Mm-hmm.
Capricorn that's in their highest light, there's never any question of power, and it's never a power that feels icky or overbearing. It's just sort of like, wow, it's either attractive or I want to follow that person or I want to be like that. But like it's empowering and representative and strong and grounded. And so I think that
Mm-hmm.
that for me has been a challenge in my life to be that at all these different phases of T squares and whatnot.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
So now we could open up my chart.